Namaste, my name is Dhieyo and welcome to my channel. Today I'll tell you a little more about the most important mudra, which is the Gyan mudra, and the 4 different ways of doing it and the reason behind those same mudra but a little bit of a twist to it, and it turns into something else altogether, all for our own benefit. But firstly, why is it called the most important mudra? Because everything that we are surrounded by is no good to us if we don't have the knowledge behind it. So similarly, to function in our day-to-day life, in our business, in our relationship, in our health, knowledge is very important. So everything that we are seeing, we are experiencing through this body, the knowledge is extremely important. This is why Gyan Mudra, which means knowledge, is very important. Some people have only limited it to spiritual knowledge. Yes, you do get spiritual knowledge, but then everything that you are getting for your day-to-day life, it could be your business and relationship or health, is also coming from the spirit world. So it is a spiritual knowledge, even if it is, let's say, an idea that comes for your business or for your art or for your creation, anything that you're creating, the knowledge is coming from there. So this mudra is really important. But now what is happening is every spiritual practice, it could be mudras, mantras, it could be asanas, either you turn it into rocket science by explaining there's so much to it, and then you add 2 bits of your own that you turn it into rocket science. But I prefer keeping it simple. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I will not turn it into rocket science. I'll keep it simple. So when a lot of people now, when they're trying to learn about mudras, they go on Google and they read books. But when they see Gyan Mudra, there's some where the fingers are pointing up, there's some where the fingers are straight in parallel to the ground, and there's some where the hands are pointing down. So this is where a lot of people are getting confused and they start blaming the other one. Oh, you're doing it wrong and she's doing it wrong and this is the right way. There are 4 different ways of doing Gyan Mudra, and each and every one of them have its various different benefits, which I will tell you right now. First, for spiritual knowledge, anything that you need related to spirituality, connect to the higher world, you keep your fingers pointed upwards. But now your thumb represents the supreme, your index finger represents you, the soul. So when you connect to the supreme, you release these 3 qualities that human beings are operating on a day-to-day basis, right from the time we get up to we sleep, which is Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. Rajas is where you are hyperactive. Let's say for the smallest reason you're late for work and now you're really hyper, you're really active and you want to get to work. Or let's say you're somebody who is a go-getter. Rajas is the quality in that. Tamas is where you're low in energy. So a lot of people, when you're hungover or you're alcoholic or you're a drug addict or you've had a bad breakup or you lost a job, you're feeling low, that's the energy. So too much of Rajas, which is hyperactive, can lead to Tamas also. So when in your day-to-day life, you're a go-getter and you're doing things, by the time you come back home, you're in Tamas mode, you've lost so much energy that now you're low in energy. Sattva is where you're peaceful, you're calm, you're happy, bliss, you're feeling good, which is also human emotion. So when you connect to the Supreme, when you, the soul, connects to the Supreme, you're releasing these human emotions, these human qualities. So now it's just you and Supreme. So the fingers always point upwards, slightly upwards, not straight like this. It's not a punishment. So slightly bent, very loosely kept, as though it's cupped, you keep it pointing upwards. This is especially there for spiritual knowledge, related to spirituality. So this is something where I practice this very often. So when somebody says, okay, one mudra that you could give us or tell us about that you can get endless amount of spiritual knowledge, I tell people you meditate in this mudra. So now when the fingers are kept stretched straight parallel to the ground, this is again you connecting to the Supreme, getting a balance in these qualities, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. So sometimes in our material life, in our day-to-day life, they find that imbalance is there where you're too focused on materialistic things. You're too focused on your business where your love life is being deprived, or your family life or your health is being compromised, or vice versa. You're so involved in that love relationship that now your business is suffering, the financial aspect or your health aspect is suffering. So to bring a balance in this is where you keep your fingers straight. This will bring balance in your life, and also a very big balance in your material and your spiritual life. So a lot of people, when they practice spirituality, they start thinking that okay, they need to get away from the material world. Material world is a bad world. No, that means there's a disbalance. You are in a material world practicing spirituality, so that balance needs to be there. This is where keeping your fingers come in play straight. Everything related to balance in your life, you keep your fingers straight. Now again, when your fingers and your hand is stretched straight, if your hands are placed on the knees, if you're sitting cross-legged and your hands are placed on your knees, you stretch your hand forward and your fingers are now pointing downwards towards the ground. So what you're doing right now, this action of Gyan Mudra is basically done when you're trying to leave something from your life which is not serving you now anymore. It could be addictions, it could be a relationship, it could be a bad health, it could be laziness, anything that you're trying to give away from your life which is now becoming a problem. You stretch your hands and you point your fingers downwards, because these are the qualities that are keeping you in that. So again, you connecting to the Supreme, all these three human qualities, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, that we human beings are operating on our day-to-day life, you're releasing that habit of yours which is keeping you stuck. You're giving it back. I don't need it anymore. So these are the three ways of doing it. The fourth one is where, again, there's some mudras you see in images where the person who's practicing has touched his index finger, her index finger with the thumb, but the fingers are cupped and kept onto the knees like this, like how I have kept it. Some will keep it like this, some will keep it slightly like this. It's not a punishment where you have to keep it this way or have to keep it this way, but the fingers are all cupped inside, connecting over here. So this is done when you yourself have certain amount of wisdom which has come down from various different lifetimes. Probably you were extremely great spiritually in a previous lifetime, and now you're trying to bring all that knowledge back inside you. The wisdom that you already have, you're not looking for that wisdom from up there or somewhere else. You're not trying to give up. You're not trying to look for the balance. You want that wisdom to come back inside you. Is when you keep the same mudra, but your hands are slightly cupped and it's on your knees, pointing inwards. So if you see a lot of soldiers, when they do march past, their fingers are always, they're holding a fist like this, not very tight, but loosely. That's because all the energy is coming back into them. So in this case, it's almost the same thing. It's all the memory that you have of previous different lifetime of knowledge, of wisdom, is now you bringing it back. So these are the four ways of doing it. The fifth way is usually what sadhus, rishis, the great one, the wise one, if they want to bless you, they'll bless you this way. That all the wisdom that I have, I want you to have it. So this is called Purna Gyan Mudra. Like complete knowledge. Now I want you to have it. I bless you with it. So you'll see them sitting like this throughout the time. Their followers come and they'll be sitting like this. Or if a follower comes, they respect them, they touch their feet, and this is how they bless them. I want you to have all the knowledge that I have. So this is the magic and power of Gyan Mudra, where there are so many different ways of doing just this one mudra. So whatever you think you want to use at whatever stage of life you are in, you need to adapt to it. I shouldn't be telling you randomly, okay, this is what you need to do. You figure out if you have that disbalance in your material life and you're looking for that balance, fingers point straight. If you're like me, sucker for spiritual knowledge, fingers pointing upwards. If there's some habits that you need to give up, which is not serving you anymore, fingers pointing downwards, hands stretched, not hands like this, hands stretched on your knees, pointing downwards. If you think you have a lot of wisdom and you have that feeling that, okay, from previous life, I need that wisdom to come up. Sometimes that's the best wisdom that we can bring back in our life. Your fingers point inwards. So try all these out in various different times, practice it, and you see what works for you, what suits you. There's no harm in trying it out. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel. Until I see you again, have a good life. Namaste.